There is no doubt that prisons can have some paranormal activity going on in them. No one really knows what happened behind the walls of these prisons, which make ghosts and spirits stay here. Here are 5 haunted prisons in the US. Eastern State Penitentiary. Founded by the Quakers in 1829, who envisioned the stone castle as a palace where criminals could become penitent for their crimes. The prison was a place of total isolation. Inmates were confined in windowless rooms and allowed no contact with any living person. Many of them were driven insane by the solitude. Punishments for breaking the rules were extreme, and suicides became common. Solitary confinement was ended in the 1870s, and a century later, the prison was closed down. Some of the haunted cell blocks include Cell Block 12, which you can hear echoing voices, and sometimes you can hear someone chuckling and laughing in a light voice. Cell Block 6 is known to have spirits and ghosts dart through the walls. And be careful looking into Cell Block 4, as witnesses have reported seeing ghostly faces come out when they're looking into the cell block. Tourists and staff have reported seeing a guard saluting them from the upstairs towers, and they could hear someone walking around up there as well. Ohio State Reformatory. The Ohio State Reformatory was opened in 1896 as a prison for criminals too old for juvenile facilities and not hardened enough for the Ohio State Penitentiary in Columbus. It saw thousands of prisoners during its year of operation, and while once applauded as a place that could humanly reform first-time offenders, the conditions deteriorated to the point that it became known for abuse, torture, and murder, already considered overcrowded and inhumane by the 1930s. The massive prison was kept open until 1986, even after a federal lawsuit was filed by the inmates that cited that it was unfit for human occupation. There has been many reports of this prison, and many people have experienced multiple things in multiple areas. For example, the administration wing is supposed to be haunted by Warden Glackey and his wife Helen where they were resided. Many complained smelling the rose perfume Helen used to wear, coming from the pink bathroom she had. The chapel has also been a very active location, with people recording spirits talking to each other, and have reported seeing ghosts hanging around the entrance and disappearing into thin air. When prisoners would not behave, they were sent into the hole, with rats and roaches crawling all over them. They were left there for days without food or water. This is why many people report feeling uneasy, as if someone is watching them, and chills passing by them. Reported as the most haunted location in the prison, the infirmary holds the spirits and ghosts of the prisoners that would be left there to die when they were sick with no one caring for them. They were also left with no food or water. People report seeing clusters of orbit lights, a gust of air passing by them, and apparitions disappearing. West Virginia Penitentiary. The prison was built on the edge of Moundsville in 1866. The prison remained open for 129 years, finally closing down in 1955. During that time, the structure housed thousands of prisoners. Many lost their lives here, through both state-sanctioned executions and during prison violence. Since its closure, the prison had become known as one of the most haunted sites in the country. Staff members and visitors alike have reported ghosts in North Hall, where the most dangerous inmates were housed. In the execution chamber, where old Sparky sent many to their early grave, people can hear voices in there. And the hole, a brutal solitary confinement area that often drives inmates to insanity and suicide. It is often said that spirits can still be seen there today. If you also dare to visit this prison, be careful with the residual hauntings, which is defined as a spiritual replay of a tragic event from the past. Maxwell Street Police Station. The prison opened its door in 1889 and quickly garnered a horrific reputation thanks to the corrupt nature of the local police department. The conditions were poor there. Upon arrival, inmates were thrown into cells that were freezing cold, rat-infested, and filled with lingering souls of those who never managed to emerge from the bowels of the ruthless police station. As if this wasn't bad enough, it was widely believed the basement functioned as a torture chamber of sorts. Because this was never a high-functioning prison like Alcatraz, most of these inmates were those too poor to buy their way out of jail for minor offense. Their treatment gave way to the rumors which gave the station its nickname, the wickedest police district in the world, and Bloody Maxwell. Visitors claimed to have heard moaning, crying, and the rattling of chains, as if the inmates were arriving at the jail. People can also feel and hear like someone is breathing right behind them. The famous Alcatraz prison. The Rock, which served as the end of the line for some of society's most dangerous criminals, housing people like Al Capone, Machine Gun Kelly, Alvin Karpis, and others. Alcatraz is easily one of the most famous and creepy prisons in the world. It's located in the middle of the San Francisco Bay, on a rocky island, giving the prison its nickname and its lack of escape routes. This didn't stop the countless inmates from trying, but few ever made it to the actual freedom. Alcatraz was overflowing with inmates until it closed its doors in 1963. Cell 14D, one of the whole cells, is believed by some to be very active with spirits. Visitors and employees have reported feeling a raw coldness and have claimed that at times a sudden instant intensity encompasses the cell. Tales have been told of an event in the 1940s when a prisoner locked in 14D screamed through the night that a creature with glowing eyes was killing him. The next day, guards found the man strangled to death in his cell. No one ever claimed responsibility for the convict's death. However, the next day, when doing head counts, the guards counted one too many prisoners. Some of the guards claimed to see the dead convict in the line with the other inmates, but only for a second before he vanishes. Warden Johnson. Other stories have circulated that Warren Johnson, nicknamed the Golden Rule Warden, also experienced a bizarre event while showing some of his guests around the prison. According to the story, Johnson and his group heard someone sobbing from inside the prison walls, and then a cold wind whisked past the group. Johnson could never explain any reason for the occurrences. Cell blocks A, B, and C. Visitors to cell block A and B claim they have heard crying and moaning. A visiting psychic wrote that while in block C, he encountered a disruptive spirit named Butcher. Prison records show that another inmate in block C murdered Abby Moldwitz, a mob hitman known as Butcher. The ghost of Al Capone. Al Capone, who spent his last years at Alcatraz with his health in decline from untreated syphilis, took up playing the banjo with the prison band. Fearing that he would be killed if he spent his recreational time in the prison yard, Capone received permission to spend recreation time practicing his banjo in the shower room. In recent years, a park ranger claims to have heard of banjo music coming from the shower rooms. Not familiar with the history of Alcatraz, the ranger could not find a reason for the sound and documented the strange activity. Other visitors and employees have reported hearing the sound of a banjo coming from the prison walls. What are your thoughts in these prisons? Have you guys ever visited one of these? And what was it like? Let me know down below. I would like to hear about it.